We bring in Jack Brewer, former NFL player and founder of the Jack Brewer Foundation. He's also on the U.S. Commission for the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. Jack, always good to have you with us. Thank you very much for being here. You heard that report. What goes through your mind, sir, as you listen to that?
Man, it sounds like a lot of confusion, as we look at our real issues that we have as black folks in America, particularly in California. There's 1 million blacks in LA County alone, and in the last report that I read, 80% of those kids in those schools can't read and write at proficiency level. So if you're going to talk about reparations, let's talk about reparations through education. Let's actually have reparations that are going to work for the people. I mean, you got a fatherlessness crisis going throughout that state where these black kids are being raised in homes that don't have any dads. And so those are our real issues, our criminal justice issues, our educational issues. You talk about social justice, it's not going to be completed by just handing out checks to people. And all you're going to do is cause more racial division throughout that state. Imagine what's going to happen if you start handing people out millions of dollars and they got to go and compete against folks that immigrated over here from Mexico or any other part. There are a lot of poor people. And so I'm all for reparations, but reparations through education that makes sense so people can go to school, go to college, but more importantly, bring some morality back to our families and put the dads back in the homes.
It's a great point. When you think about how much we have let really all children across the nation down during the course of COVID, and they're barely proficient. There are entire school districts where nobody is proficient in reading or math. Baltimore is one of them. What do you think would be the reaction to this panel that you just heard from if you said to them, let's put it into education. Let's give kids a guarantee that they'll be able to read by 3rd grade, that they'll be able to be proficient in math by 8th grade. And if we fail them, then we're going to have to make it right. Or that fathers need to be in the home. What do you think the reaction would be to this panel, from this panel, to what you're saying?
It's what I get all the time. It's the response of the Antichrist. They call me an Uncle Tom. They call me names. And for that, I don't care because, our kids need spirituality again. A God-fearing person would not sit up there and demand for $1 million checks. A God-fearing person would demand for righteousness to be instilled back in the children. They'd be able to see our kids in the streets mass murdering each other. Gangs are spiking around LA County and many other parts. You see what's going on in our inner cities. You see how our little girls are dressing. You're talking about sex trafficking at its highest levels we've ever had because there's no dads in the homes. Our kids aren't going to church anymore. I mean, our communities are ravished right now, and you got a bunch of people standing up asking for $1 million checks. It's absolutely insane to me. Let's fix our problems, our cultural issues that start with spirituality. You should be fighting to put the 10 Commandments back in school. Fighting to empower teachers that can actually go out and help fight this crisis that we're living in when we got 75% of our kids born out of wedlock. We got to wake up.
Jack Brewer, thank you very much. It's always good to hear your voice on these issues in terms of really producing positive change. And I know a lot of people listen to you, and I hope that it will turn the tide in the direction of what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Okay, so y'all just heard that right there, and I think Jack Brewer must have had one too many hits to the head with the statements in which he was making. And he said quite a bit without saying much really at all. And I'm gonna try to see if I can get like a small transcript of what he's saying because it was a lot, and I don't feel like having to go back through and listen to that. But it was just a bunch of Sambo babble. And I'm listening to it and literally I'm sitting in my chair. Y'all should be, I wish y'all could see the look on my face. It's probably the same one y'all are making just listening to that in which he was talking about. I mean, the amount of times this man mentioned about faith and religion and God and all types of stuff. Then he talked about the education. I just did a video talking about Gavin Newsom, him mentioning education, and he's saying nothing new. He's not saying anything that we have not already heard and broken down and debunked already. He's really not. He's not. And then he talked about, fatherless homes and all. He basically pulled out all the tropes. And it's like, y'all don't say this to any other community. Y'all only say this to us. Always only to us. Like, we're the only ones that need a quote unquote stern talking to. Meanwhile, you have some of these individuals who are going out committing these mass shootings and mass murders who come from fathers in their home, and they still go out there and they commit these crimes. Look at the most recent one with Mauricio Garcia. To my knowledge, I believe both of his parents were in the home with him. And look at what direction and path he decided to go down. I don't know about Dylan Roof. I can't remember if Dylan Roof lived with both his parents or not. But look at what he did. And it goes on and on and on. It seems to me that a lot of the PC individuals or PC adjacent ones that has both parents in their life, they still manage to F up, but they don't want to talk about that. I'm going to read what he says. So, because like I said, I'm not going back to listen to that crap again. He said, as we look at our real issues that we have as black folks in America, particularly in California, there's 1 million blacks in LA County alone. And in the last report that I read, I want to know where you got that report from, or where did you read that report from? Because a lot of these so-called reports be skewing numbers to make black people look even worse than we already are. It says, then in the last report that I read, 80% of those kids in schools can't read and write at proficiency level. Then why is that? Notice that he mentions that, but he doesn't say why that is, nor does he have a solution to fix that. You know why? Because reparations in those checks are the solution. Again, we can then go and separate and do our own thing and give our own proper education. Remember, Ron the Snowflake and, being Mr. quote unquote anti-CRT and anti-woke quote unquote, if we learn about our history, that's considered to be woke. Let's see what else he says. He says, so if you're going to talk about reparations, let's talk about reparations through education. Education is only going to affect kids and minors, teenagers from, young age to about 17. After that, it's whatever. That doesn't benefit every black person because not every black person is in school. A lot of the stuff they keep saying that we need could benefit everybody, which goes back to my issues with what Gavin Newsom said about education this and education that. That in which they're talking about that we need can benefit everyone. Gavin Newsom even said it himself, inclusive to all Californians. That's really what it is. They do not want us to have independence of this system. They want us to forever be dependent on it. And then you got these buck dancing, eye bucking, shuck and jiving, tap dancing fools like this one on the screen that backs it up. Now he has the whole American flag in his background. It's kind of cut off, but you can clearly tell that's what it is. Sitting up there talking on Fox News, saying this crap, just being as off code as he want to be. He goes on to say, let's actually have reparations that are going to work for the people. I mean, what people are exactly? Because if it's not for black people, then it ain't for us. He says, you got a fatherlessness crisis going throughout the state where these black kids are being raised in homes that don't have any dads. And so those are our real issues. Well, what are your plans, Jack Brewer? This is something you've been seeing for quite some time, but apparently you must love what you see because you ain't done jack squat about it. See, they love to talk about the issues that black people have, but when we come to them with what we need in the solution, they say, well, you don't need that. Because how's that going to fix anything? What you need is this. And whenever they present something that they feel that we need, it's something that can, one, work against us even more, or two, benefit them, or three, a combination of one and two. And it's usually three. I wonder how much they paid Jack to sit up there and spew this nonsense. He says, and so those are our real issues, our criminal justice issues, our educational issues. All that stuff is systemic. even down to the quote unquote fatherlessness thing that he wants to talk about, that goes back decades. That goes back probably to even before this man was even born. All the stuff that they claim is that's an issue for us is all systemic and can only be fixed one way. But they don't want us to have it. But what makes this even more sad and pathetic on his part is the fact that he most likely, I don't know if he does or if he doesn't, someone can check to be sure, most likely benefits from it and he doesn't want it. That's fine, because we're making a list of those who said that they are anti-reparations who could benefit from it. We're going to make sure that you don't get yours. We will simply pass it on to someone else that can benefit from it, since clearly you know you don't need it. That's a serious question I want to ask. To those who could benefit from this, why are you anti-reparations? Like, that's my biggest question. I can understand why those who are non-FBA in the diaspora are against it. I can clearly understand why PC is against it, or any of these other groups. But why are you, a person who's most likely going to benefit from this, why are you against it? That is the Twilight Zone question of the day for me. I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know. I really don't know. You're literally turning down money that is owed to you. That's like turning down a refund check from the IRS, and you know they don't like to pay a refund. Even if it's $1, they don't like to pay it to you. They want all their money, plus any interest that you might have to pay. They love the interest. So why are you so against what could most likely benefit you? Like, that's weird to me. He says, you talk about social justice is not going to be completed by just handing out your checks to people. Tell that to those who actually have received and are still receiving. They always leave that out. You know why it is? Because a lot of them got slid their checks on the back burner and people didn't know. But we made noise about ours, and now they upset because we're supposed to just roll over and just take it and just deal with the hand we are dealt. That's just how they feel about it. We supposed to not have a damn thing. It's sad. It's sick. But you know what? I'm glad this conversation of reparations, just the conversation alone, is actually happening, because it has exposed how two-faced and fake and phony a lot of these individuals are. And on top of being two-faced, fake, and phony, how twisted, diabolical, and maniacally insane a lot of them are as well. He says, for that, I don't care, because you know our kids need spirituality again. So then he goes into talking about religion, and it's like, now you're just pulling stuff out of your ass. Then he talks about he was branded an Uncle Tom. Well, first off, we would call you a Sambo, a bug dancer, because that's your proper title. I don't know why you're upset by it, because that's really what you are. A God-fearing person would not sit up there and demand $4 million checks. First off, 4 million, where did you get this number of 4 million from? I could have sworn the number was 1.2. Where did 4 million come from? Notice they keep changing these numbers. They keep making it higher and higher and higher. That reminds me of the video, the Triple P that I did when they kept talking about 200 million. I'm like, where are you getting this astronomical $200 million from? And you know what it was? Is because these articles kept putting out these weird numbers, and they were believing and hanging off of every word. Just a bunch of dumbasses. Even though there was a fact checker that had said this is not accurate, they were still falling for it. Again, it sounds like he's falling for it too. Then he goes on, he talks about, black on black crime, then black children and sex trafficking, little girls dressing, and a bunch of other stuff that is just all around the world. Like, he tried to take it around the world 80 days and back with this rhetoric. But like I said, I'm gonna be honest. They say he played for I think the Giants or whatever. He used to play in the NFL. I can honestly say I never really heard of him, so I don't know from what year to what year he played. And honestly, I don't care. All I know is that he just sat up here on Fox News and sat in front of this white woman and babbled for almost 4 minutes about a bunch of nothing. I feel like I wasted my time listening to his nonsense, because what he said is nothing different than what the other anti-reparation individuals have said before and will say after him. It's nothing new. They all follow the same script. But that's fine, because we're not letting their words deter us. We know we are a lot closer than we were yesterday, and we're going to get what's coming to us, and soon they will get what's coming to them.